Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cremechiss podcast. Today, we're going to talk about not three, not five, not 10 movies, but one movie. And that movie is, trust me, it's way more than the number of movies that we talk every week. It's none other than Rajamouli's latest offering, RRR. And trust me, even if it sounds like a pirate movie, it's not. Although there is a character who's good with archery. So will you call him Jack
No,
Jack
no,
Arrow?
no. I knew you were going to make this joke. No,
I want claps during the edit, okay? This time you're
no,
editing.
no way.
Okay.
I will put cricket sounds.
So today we're gonna debunk talk in detail, we're gonna dissect the phenomenon that is RRR. I wanna ask this. What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction to RRR. So, are you talking trailer or are you talking movie?
Movie, while you're watching,
Okay.
what was the first impression when you watched it?
I absolutely was. I'll be honest with you. I was a bit surprised because I was expecting. I think I was still mesmerized by the Bahubali universe. And I think I was expecting it to be, oh, we're going to make it, very larger than life, mythological or something like that. And the opening is very realistic, but in a way that makes sense to uh, the general Rajamouli universe. So it was very scenic, very beautiful, but very, um, I don't know, very, very odd for me because the second I enter a Rajmouli universe, I'm expecting it to, open with some scene which is going to be, it's going to be, the entry of the protagonist, but it was nothing like that. It was literally the setup of a village, a bunch of people huddled in a group, sitting, listening to a girl singing. Very, very surprising entry into the universe for me, at least.
It's like I don't want to throughout the video I will not be comparing it to Bahubali or anything, but you have to admit that the you can see more effort that they've put into RRR. You can
Absolutely.
effort wise, I would say RRR scores more than Bahubali. Other than that, I don't think I want to talk about comparing the two
I
movies.
might compare from time and again because RRR for me is a much greater film universe than Bahubali's film universes. So I might compare from time to time, but that's only because I adore this film so much.
One of the biggest regrets of my life is to not see my team play in their home ground. It's probably my biggest regret of my life. Like when Chelsea came to my home city, I couldn't watch them play, and then I watched RRR in a fucking TV at home. I realized
What?
every minute I was just regretting. I was just cursing myself for listening to some dude saying that this movie is not as good as Bahubali, and
Wait,
that's the,
what?
yeah. Someone told me, and okay, I'll get to my thoughts about RRR and Bahubali later. But somebody told about me, and that's what made me not watch the movie in a theater. And then when I watched it on my TV, I realized my biggest mistake of my life. This movie is a communal experience. I don't see this movie in any other space rather than it being that. And for me, Rajamouli does that every time.
I watched it both in TV and theater.
Mhm.
I watched it on TV or on laptop. And then I went and I watched it in theater again. And it's kind of like watching two different films.
Mhm.
And the experience is definitely different. I'm not gonna say it is better or worse, obviously, but because when a movie is that great, it translates on every screen perfectly. Like, and this movie is literally that great. I managed to watch it in theater because I always felt like, oh my goodness, it was so awesome on my laptop. I bet it will be amazing in theater, even though I know the storyline. So for me, it was, I don't know, I enjoyed it both ways. But
No,
I'm not
I I I
not
enjoyed
a
RRR. That's what sorry, what?
screen aficionado like certain people over here. So I don't know.
Mm, So I enjoyed it when I was watching it on my television, and my television is big enough. Okay, when I turn off my lights, it is very good. But what I'm saying is, RRR is a communal experience. It's not just. It's obviously to be watched on the biggest screen possible, but then I think it only elevates your experience when you watch it with other people. And these days, you'll admit to this. These days, there aren't a lot of movies that you can say that about. Rajamouli is sadly an anomaly now.
This kind of theater behaviors, in my opinion, I get a little agitated when people interrupt a movie experience in a theater. Because I have never had at least that luck where I'm sitting in a theater and I'm watching a movie, and about 5 minutes in, there is somebody talking about something completely disconnected, has nothing to do with the movie, with the person next to them, to the point where somebody else would have to like tell them to shush or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe our lucks have differed in that area, but I always find if I'm in a theater and I am the only person in the theater, maybe 4 or 5 other people are there, I love it. It makes me so happy. Like, yes, this entire movie is for me. Like, I don't know. But I think there's something to be said about theater behaviors over there, which I can't quantify that in any way whatsoever.
So did you see that clip on Twitter where uh, during the NTR's introduction scene,
Mm.
they are bursting crackers, or I think there are fireworks in the theater uh, when he's pouring blood over himself, and there are like crowds cheering and everything. See, okay, like you guys cannot see, but Survi is actually squinting,
I'm wincing in pain.
wincing. Yeah. So I think that's where we differ. I would
No,
love being in that theater,
dancing
dancing and
and cheering the heroes, yes, but throwing firecrackers, no, that's not
no, not throwing firecrackers at people or at the screen. I'm like they're bursting firecrackers. They already had
inside
those,
the theater.
yeah, inside the theater.
I have nothing to say to this.
I think
Anyway,
they might
let's
they might have taken precautions. Obviously,
yeah, yeah,
why
yeah,
would they? Why would they?
absolutely,
Why would they
absolutely,
harm their own property?
yeah, because indoor fireworks is a thing.
Lavangi bomb is.
Okay, let's get back to the movie. Let's get back to the brass tacks.
Huh.
Let's talk of okay, I want to ask you this question. When the so when the purpose, I guess, there are two, I don't know, there are two protagonists. I think there's a protagonist and a supporting protagonist, I guess, supporting hero type of person. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think there are equal part heroes in the movie?
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
I always, uh, I'm always the one to criticize when there are like when you have these ensemble pieces and a lot of people don't get uh, the same amount of screen time. Like I can argue about Avengers being like that, but RRR for me, I think okay, not in terms of screen time, but I think like in terms of story and everything, I thought I thought they got equal proportions here. I think Rajamouli specifically made sure that he gives each of these characters equal amount of, if not time, equal amount of story. They have equal amounts of uh, stake in the story. So I think it was fine. Wasn't it for you?
Um, for me, at every day the main protagonist for me changes, and I've been obsessing over this movie for a while. So there there are, I think there are two protagonists. One of them is
There's Ram
Bheem.
Raju and Bheem. Yeah.
Okay, so Ram Raju and Bheem. Let's first set up who is who, right? So Bheem is a person who is actually part of the village tribe, and then when the opening scene starts, there's a tribe of people who are sitting listening to a girl sing while she's painting kind of, I guess, a temporary tattoo onto the arm of this British lady who is really taken by this little girl's voice and the way she sings and her general talent, and he's part of that tribe. Although I don't think in the first scene you see Raju, right? You don't. In the first scene you don't see Bheem. You only see these bunch of people who are sitting, around and waiting for this British couple to leave them alone. I guess I don't know, but
He chooses. I think this time Rajamouli chooses to introduce the black before white.
oh yeah, like I think he's setting up who the villain is, and the villains and heroes are very clearly established over here. Okay.
Yeah, he's known for that. Like there are no gray shades or
No,
off whites or anything.
no, very straightforwardly set up. And for me, the thing about these two characters, at least, so the first protagonist or the first hero that gets introduced is Ramraj, right?
Yeah.
We see him first.
You
So
see him in that. You see him in that spectacular action sequence where he goes and beats up his own people.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about that scene. There is the setup of the universe is that it's British Raj in India, and Ram Raju is the police officer, or is a person who upholds the law as the police officer, to the point where he will beat up an Indian who has probably attacked a police station. Like he will literally like walk through an entire crowd of people where they're just beating him up and they're trying to literally kill him, while he literally struggles to go and capture this one person who has tried to attack the police station, and he will drag him through the mud and bring him to his bosses or whatever, splash some water on his face while his skull is literally cracked open, and just stand again in complete stoic, emotionless kind of discipline, ready to face the crowds, the protesting crowds again. This is such a weird, tantalizing way to bring in a character, because you are like, wait, why are you beating up Indians? You're Indian. Like, oh my God, what kind of a weird racist are you? How can you uphold, the law this way, that you don't see that the Britishers are exploiting the Indians? But that scene, you cannot take your eyes off that scene. You just cannot. Like, I couldn't. It is my favorite. Wow, can I say that? It is my favorite opening action sequence. Like, what a great way to bring the movie into full spectrum. Like, okay, this is what we are starting with.
Yeah.
Like,
it starts off with it starts off with, like, you'd think that someone like Rajamouli would hold back on these atrocities, right? Like usually he would go batshit crazy on the good guys beating the bad guys, but this time he's talking about, he's showing atrocities happening here. So you would think that he would hold back, but no, this is like 1 versus 100, and he made sure that whatever the character of Ramraju is, whatever the arc that we see, the reason, the motivation that we see later, he makes sure that the opening is so strong that whenever his arc is explained, it actually pays off in an amazing manner.
Between, because let's talk about Bheem's forest scene, and
Oh, by far,
we have not gotten over.
every single thing about that scene is still vivid in my memory. I've seen it only once, okay, but every single thing. Like, first of all, the it starts off with us getting a long shot of the reflection of uh, the character, right? We don't see the actual one. We see the reflection, and then the camera rotates, and then we see Bheem pouring blood. That was amazing. The jungle setup and everything, and then it sort of confuses you as to why is he pouring blood over himself, and then you see the animals chasing him, and then all of it makes sense. Such amazing sound, such an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic soundtrack, makes you feel very immersed in the experience of the character itself. Like, I know that Bheem is the person that's pouring like blood on himself, but in that moment you can feel like a psychotic wave falling over you, where you're like, oh my god, like, this is this the villain? Are we establishing this person as the villain now? Like, who's the villain? Because up until now you're not seeing anybody act in the light of good. Okay, like literally up until Bheem pouring blood on himself, you're like, oh my god, is everybody weird in this universe? Like, what's going on? The British dude taking away the little Indian girl, and then freaking Ram Raju beating up an Indian man and then dragging him to the police station, and then this guy pouring blood on himself. Like, when will the madness stop? And it doesn't. That's the beauty of it. The madness doesn't stop. It only gets crazier from there, and it gets so entertaining so quickly, because you see the chase happen, and I don't know.
It feels so real, right? Like the fact that you in a normal universe, in a non-Rajamouli universe, you would curse them for showing a tiger chasing a human and not catching him. But here it makes so much sense that he's just running away, he's sprinting while the tiger's chasing him, and tiger's not able to catch him. He makes it believable, and that's what Rajamouli's, you know, Rajamouli's forte.
I find one thing really interesting, where, and this never gets explained, I think, when such kind of chases are shown, especially when it's man versus wild or something like that. And I think you brought this up when you watched the movie. It's like, how did that occur in somebody's mind, right? That if you're going to throw blood on yourself, you're going to attract anything that likes the smell of blood. So the intent was to capture, I guess, a gray wolf. The chase scene basically starts with this man preparing for something wild. We don't know what it is at this point in time. We just know that he has put blood on himself and he's running through the forest. So, okay, so this is going to be some kind of trap for the animals who are going to now come in, and, he's going to capture them for food or something. You see a gray wolf chasing him, and you're like, okay, this is the intent. And he's already signaled his comrades to create a trap. And I think the trap is strong enough to hold a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you're in a jungle. There are many animals. Anybody anything that likes blood is going to chase you. It's not just going to be wolves. And to show that scene, like, okay, this is the moment he realized he fucked up. that scene is woof. Like, they have made that scene beautifully. And while he's running, you mentioned, I think this earlier, that you can see the paw prints of the tiger.
Oof. And it was that quick, right? Like, the moment he notices the paw print, the next frame is the tiger leaping out from behind. Oof.
And you can see, like the slithering of the tiger, like very slow, and talk about the comparison. So the Raju action sequence is very chaotic, very crazy. Lot of people trying to hurt, this hero. A lot of people trying to embark on this journey where they're gonna embark on this journey with this hero, where they're basically gonna attack him for doing his job. And here, it's not about doing his job; it's about survival, and it's completely opposite. It's not chaotic at all.
So I was saying, this scene, to establish the Bheem character, it was important to show the Ram Raju sequence first, because it needed to be the exact opposite of that scene where Ram Raju, we don't actually see intent currently. We don't know who he actually is, or whether he actually intends to, you know, commit those crimes against his countrymen, or maybe he's innocent, or maybe he has some motives or anything. We don't know that yet, right? So when Bheem sequence comes, it needs to be as clean as possible. We need to see we need to see a character out of a Rajamouli universe, right? We need to see someone. We need to see a hero. We were craving for a hero. It's been 30 minutes since we haven't seen anyone like that, and that's why we see the Bheem sequence. Like uh, even after he captures the tiger, he actually apologizes to it, because he said that the only reason why he's capturing it is because he wants to rescue Malti. Malti? Yeah, Malli, sorry.
What I really like about, I think, the forest scene, or either of the action sequences, the one thing that is going to make these two characters the same is that they are in this for the long haul. They are playing the long game. So they have no interest in immediate returns. They are not seeing it that way. They very well know they're going to die in the process of this, or they're going to get very hurt in the process, and they don't care. The 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 jungle sequence actually ends with him luring the tiger into the trap, because the tigers basically kind of defeated the wolf. Like literally, you see the wolf kind of going head straight into the neck of the tiger, and then them having a little wrestle in the mud. And you will be very, very, very impressed by that scene, because the trap is set up for a wolf, which is much more lighter in weight, is smaller in size. So when they do get the tiger in position, this guy literally sees the hook of his trap getting pulled out, and he's holding the trap with his arms while getting attacked with the tiger on his chest. Like he literally gets pawed at with his claws on his chest. And I have never held my breath. Like, oh my god, like, why? Because I have not watched the trailer or anything. All I knew when going into this movie that Ajay Devgan is there in a Rajamouli film. Why is he there? That's all I knew about the movie. I didn't know anything else about it. I didn't know about the actors. I didn't know about Alia Bhatt. I didn't know about anything. All I knew was that Ajay Devgan was there in this movie. And because he's one of my great beloveds, I was saying, oh my God, I have to watch this film. Like, I wonder what he's doing in a Rajamouli universe. And to not know that this person is going to survive this attack, right, made that even more exciting for me. Like, I'm being very honest here, guys. And this is, I think, something Sank has advised me. If you can, don't watch the trailer. If you hear great buzz about a great film, you have a chance to look at the poster, and it's like, and everybody's talking great things about it, and you'll know you're on Instagram and Facebook and whatever the hell else is going on YouTube, and you'll know that every other person is probably talking about that movie. Don't watch the trailer. Just watch the movie straight, and you will get even more more bang for your buck at the end of it.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead? What's the next thing? Naatu Naatu?
The dance sequence?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about our suspender kings.
Wow. So I had seen the teaser on YouTube. So I think this is something only South movies do, is that they have these teaser teasers of songs and they don't release the whole video up until like maybe like 3 months after the movie has released or something. So they only release teaser videos and they release like lyrical versions of that on YouTube. So the small snippets that I had seen in the teaser, it intrigued me a lot because they had in that teaser they had shown the same. I don't think it's a suspender dance, but that the foot thing, the ankle thing that they do, ankle step that they do, and that step had intrigued me a lot. And when I actually saw that in the movie, it just blew my mind, especially the suspender sequence. So that
Song and dance is a very important part of Indian cinema. I mean, you will not see um, even some of the more subtler films that don't have very celebratory reasons to include a dance. You will see very good music. So to see a great choreographed sequence in a very chaotic universe where there's so much blood, guts, and gore happening, um, so much violence happening, and then to get like this fresh little cut out of it, and oh, I was so impressed. I was so
yeah,
impressed by the actors because they do not come across as people who can.
seriously, my friend who's Telugu, he told me that I knew that Ram Charan can dance, but he didn't know that NTR could dance that well. Oh, sorry, it's the other way. Sorry, he knew
The
that
other way.
NTR could dance, but he didn't know about Ram Charan's talent. So I
I
think
was
like just
impressed.
knowing just knowing this, I think that a lot of effort might have gone for them to ace these steps, for these two to ace these steps.
Mhm.
And kudos again, like again an example of Rajamouli wanting to perfect things. Like you talked about the opening scene, right, where we see these people doing the most horrible things possible to the villagers. Even that sequence, he makes sure that whatever that he does, it has to be amped up to a level. It has to be the perfect thing ever. uh, I think like that's something that, who's that director that I want to talk about? James Cameron. James Cameron does. So what he did with Titanic, any other movie, if you think, having a disaster, having a romantic storyline in a disaster movie, which is actually based on true life, which is actually based on true incidents. The Titanic actually happened, but to have a romantic story as a backdrop of that movie, of that, it fails so much on paper. So the fact that he made that work says so much about the perfection that uh, he brought into Titanic. Do you know that like during the re-release, he actually shot reshot the constellations because the original movie that came out in '97, it did not have the same
Yeah,
constellations like in
yeah.
1912. So they actually did that. So that's the kind of perfection that I see in Rajamouli. Like I'm not I haven't seen all movies of his, but I've seen Iga and I've seen the two Bahubalis.
Hmm.
Everything that I've seen of his, I know that this guy, whenever he wants to make something, on paper, it might not look the most delicious script ever, but he makes sure that it is when he actually shoots it. So I want to drill into his brain to know what he's actually about, man.
He creates cinematography. Like he spins cinematography. He makes it magical. Like it is very easy, in my opinion, to take a very oh my god, what a smart script. Oh, look at the foreshadowing. Look at the And then to take a very straightforward script of good versus evil, of good triumphing over bad, and making that enjoyable for your audience, right? I mean, the this is the thing about the Titanic. I have come across a person who didn't know in the year 2022 that Titanic actually happened. Okay.
Okay.
And I was talking to her, and we were just having this conversation about, oh, like, why didn't she just move over? Why didn't Rose just move over? And Jack could have gotten the door too, and they both could have survived, or they could have taken turns. And I was like, yeah, and to think that everybody died except for like a handful of people, like I cannot imagine what they were thinking in terms of building that ship and protecting the people. And her face, and she's 30 something, and her face was like, the Titanic actually happened. And then instead of worrying about, oh my God, there was a ship that actually drowned. Wait, so are Jack and Rose also real? And I'm like, no, they are not. They are the only fictional part. And then apparently, and then when I went on Reddit, I found a lot of people who thought Titanic was like a made-up disaster, and it was a fictional universe altogether. And then when you see RRR, it is again in the same thing. Like, there was British Raj in India. That's very true. Little girls were, taken out of their homes to entertain British families. And these things actually happened. These kind of atrocities, this kind of horrible rituals of colonization were happening all over India. And the thing is, these revolutions, or these kind of revolutions, did happen. So there were people who were in law who were turning against the British Raj, and to take a universe, or to take an actual event in history, and then to make it interesting in a way where you're talking about incidents that could have contributed to the overall revolution of India versus the Britishers. It makes it that much more delicious, the storyline. And similarly for Licorice Pizza, each of the events discussed in Licorice Pizza have happened in real life, like the gas shortage, and the politician that came out several I think years later, who's a closeted homosexual. All of those incidents actually happened, and then to show these fictional characters who would fade into the background, because no one talked about them, because they were volunteers and supporters and people who contributed to the whole story in some small way, and to make them larger than life is tremendous. And he has achieved that through Bhima's character, to take a tribal man and to make him larger than life. And this is why I think he's the main protagonist. Like, whenever I inch out, like, between the two of them, and I think, like, okay, so between Raju and Bheem, Raju did this and he had the opening sequence, but then Bheem did this, and Bheem has the coolest action sequences. He just does. I'm sorry,
He's
but
the
he
best.
does. He's
I
awesome.
like I said, like, for me, I think they are the stake that they have in the story. I think it was in equal proportions. I don't think he preferred anyone over anyone. But when in terms of favorite characters, I think Bheem does it. And this movie, I've seen a couple of Ram Charan movies before. This movie was my introduction to NTR Jr. And what an actor this guy is! Just with those eyes, he can say a lot. Oh, by the way, uh, I know how this movie can be cut short from 3 hours to 5 minutes.
What?
Yes, Malli stops singing for them. She just sings bad.
But see, if you are Indian, okay, forget Indian. If you are a child in a parent's house, right, and uncle and auntie have come to visit you, so maybe do Johnny Johnny Yes Papa, maybe dance on Le Gai, And that was
No,
exactly what happened. British uncle and auntie came home. They're like, baby, now sing for uncle and auntie. Now dance, do something, entertain them. We are not at all interested in holding a conversation with these people. So you entertain.
no, but like when she's kidnapped, no, when she's in the palace singing for those women, she just starts singing bad so much that they
Yeah, but they
themselves take
couldn't
her
kill
back to the
her.
village. Like
They
ये
don't
अपने
take
पास ही
her
रखो.
back. नहीं चाहिए.
हाँ, take it and go. Take it and go. Take it and go.
Coming back to the setup of, is it a 2-hour film or a 3-hour film? Do
It
we
is
know
a
how long it
3-hour
is?
film, and this might be the first 3-hour film after maybe like after I became an adult that I did not feel a
The
single
3 hours?
minute. Yeah,
Yeah, same. I did not feel the 3 hours
yeah. It took me
1
back to
minute.
my childhood days where we could watch 2.5 hour, 3-hour movies
Yeah.
in one sitting.
What was that mafia movie that had just come out, which was also a 3-hour film? Uh,
What? Oh, Irishman.
Irishman. I felt those 3 hours.
Yeah, yeah. So, like,
That
I think all of the 3-hour movies that come out these days, I can say Batman. Batman came out this year, the Robert Pattinson one. I felt so. There's this sequence that happens in between the movie where Batman confronts Maroni, and
Mhm.
it's shot like it's the end sequence. And then you find out, then you look at your watch, and then you find out there's one more hour left in the movie. I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah. To create a 3-hour film with such delicacy to the details and to the characters, the dialogues, everything. Um, and for me, I didn't realize up until now that it was a 3-hour film.
Mhm.
I didn't feel it at all. And I think
And the
directors have to learn from Rajamouli to create a 3-hour film. And people are like, oh my God, he's an editing genius. He narrated the story in 1 hour, 45 minutes. That is great for you. But look at Rajamouli stretch out a universe for 3 hours and for you to enjoy every minute of it. Like
seriously,
that is hats off to that man.
there are
My God.
people who are saying that nobody, people should just stop making movies now because
Yes.
he's shown everyone why movies exist.
Yes. He's declared cinema.
Yeah.
After how long too? We have waited a long bloody time for something like this to happen. And so Sank and Sud do not speak Telugu. We don't speak Telugu. So we had to rely, at least I had to rely on a dubbed version and then a subtitled version. I don't know what it was like for you. Did you do subtitled only?
I always make sure that I watch the subtitled one first before going on to the dub one.
Okay. So I watched the dubbed one. Fantastic dubbing. So if you know Hindi, great for you. If you don't know Hindi and you just want to, you probably only speak like English or because I think the subtitles are only in English, at least on Netflix.
Mm.
You will love that movie. The dialogues are very well translated and they're applied very well to the universe as well. So it makes sense to you culturally as well. So
And
worth pursuing just for the sake of that.
also, the Telugu actors themselves have dubbed their Hindi parts, at least the two leads. I know that much. So, okay, one misconception that I've seen international critics they're making is that they're calling this a Bollywood movie. So whoever is an international
Man,
viewer, just
stop
just
it.
know this. This is not a Bollywood movie. Bollywood movies are only made in Hindi and they are made by the big production houses in Bombay. Nothing other than that. There are other movies made in Bombay also, which cannot be classified as Bollywood movies.
First of
This
all,
is
don't take a Rajamouli film and call it Bollywood. It's not. Rajamouli movies are not even like Telugu movies now. They're Rajamouli movies. They are
yes.
entirely his movies. You will not see that signature, that beauty, that scenic chaos in any other director's universe. And watch Bahubali, right? Bahubali
Mm.
is like literally like I don't know, like mythological, chaotic, crazy, beautiful, and stunning. Like I think a standoff happens between the hero and the villain, where they're literally like attacking each other from I think 12 feet away, and they're like, I think one is jumping like 6 feet high and about to attack this person. It is the best sequence you will ever see, and you will not see that sequence anywhere in Hindi cinema. You will not. So just stop calling it Bollywood for the sake of yourselves. You're embarrassing yourself. Don't call it Bollywood.
Yeah, get some knowledge from this podcast.
Yes.
Uh, Also, one thing you talked about the mythological aspect in Bahubali, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many movies that are being made these days, so-called religious propaganda, and when you watch those movies, you know that I'm not naming any, but when you watch those movies, you know that these are made as religious propaganda movies and they don't serve any other purpose. And then you have something that Rajamouli makes, who has
Yeah.
these mythological characters, who have characters like Bheem and Ram
Mm-hmm.
in his movies, and he
Yeah.
gives a fresh take on it and not just, you know, does the done and dusted version of these mythological characters. Because we've seen a Ram character, we've seen Hanuman, we've seen so many. But this guy, Rajmouli, he just takes that formula and he churns up something really beautiful out of those things. That's how you promote your cinema
And
without
he
catering
makes it
to,
in a, yeah,
other
without catering,
audiences.
without pandering, because he actually talks about it as well without, like, there are some directors who will skim over it and not really say it to play safe. He didn't do that either. So Bhim's character, he is in hiding. He's in disguise to go save this girl that basically gets snatched away from her family, from her village, because they need a girl to sing in their house to entertain them. Like she's nothing, like she's an object. And he poses as a Muslim man living with a Muslim family, when he goes to the town to go bring her back. And there's a scene where he gets beaten up, by this British officer because he feels, I guess, intimidated or insecure because of his knowledge when he's fixing his bike or something, when Bheem is fixing his bike. And you see him take a beating. So
And
just the scene before, sorry, go ahead.
see him beating Bheem right after the scene where he's kicked the tiger's ass.
I was literally about to say that. It is literally the scene right after a tiger paws at him and he survives that, but then he takes a beating from a British officer because he's trying to protect the identity of this Muslim family who has been gracious enough to help him and keep him in hiding and keep his disguise up. So Rajmouli is not afraid of talking about, communal harmony in those times where there was a common enemy. They were the Britishers, and a lot of people saw past their religious differences and their cultural differences, their cultural expectations of each other. They were just trying to help each other. And most of his universes are about the good in people, even the ones who are not the protagonists, even the ones who are like background characters. It focuses on the good of a person, the good of a community, and how the good of a community ultimately helps the protagonist become the hero he truly is or she truly is. So, and he is so unapologetic of that, and he does it so skillfully that you won't even realize that he slipped that in, intentionally. I love that about him. Absolutely love that about him.
Can we get to the best scene of the movie?
Which is
The animals coming out. My favorite sequence of the movie. I screamed. This is where I I so wanted. I was talking about my biggest regrets of my life, right? This is where I was regretting it hard of not watching this on the big screen. The point where they take the truck, they ram it into the palace or whatever, and then the animals just come out and Bheem's in it, and then the music kicks in.
Yeah.
Oof!
Yeah.
I was screaming when I was at home when I saw that sequence, because up until then, when they bring meat and everything and give it to the tiger, you actually don't get as to why they are, why do they have these animals in the city? You don't know. But when that sequence happened, it all makes sense.
Yeah. And you see this person um as a soft character. You don't see
Yes.
Bean as a person who is going to unleash actual hell on these people, because prior few scenes are basically the bromance between Bheem and Raju, and how they are becoming best of friends, and they take bike rides together. And then when the other person collapses dancing, one of the friends will give the other one a piggyback ride, back home. There is so much love and cuteness. I love when the heroes who are all macho and muscly have like these soft moments with their friends, because frankly, I don't know, it makes them so much more likable. And then to see that sequence where he jumps out of one of those cages, or on top, or from top of those cages, and he opens up the doors of all the animals, so the tiger, the wolf, a bunch of wild birds, they all go crazy on the people around them. And
Even
you see,
yeah,
sorry,
continue.
and you see for the first time that Bheem is capable of collateral damage. That whatever the means, however necessary, because those animals are going to attack everybody. They're not going to just attack the people he thinks are bad. They're going to attack anyone, man, woman, child. It's not going to matter. And you see and again, attention to the detail. You see in several scenes where the animals also attack Bheem. They also attack
Hmm.
Raju, and very clearly, because they're not tame, they're wild animals captured to create havoc. Like they're captured to attack anything that comes in front of them, so that so Bheem can create a proper distraction and save that little girl. So the attention to detail to that, and I am so impressed, because whenever I think when I was much much younger, and I would see these sequences, where the villains would come one at a time and the hero to box it out, and I'm like, there are 10 of you. If all of you ganged up on that hero, he would die right over there. and I and then when you see stuff like that, why did the hero get attacked? Why did he get hit? And Rajamouli, I think, probably also thought those things when he watched other movies,
Yeah.
and he basically addresses that. Like, that is his answer. Like, yes, the animals will attack Bheem, they will attack Raju, but they are awesome. They are badass. They can kick anybody's business out of the water, and they are going to come out of this victorious. And that's that scene basically. Like, everybody's fair game because they're animals, even our heroes, and it's the way they navigate and choreograph their way out of it is the build-up of that scene.
And he doesn't lose the plot as well, right? That sequence is not just about the action; it's about uh, Raju confronting him about who he actually is, and he comes out in his police uniform, and for a moment, he is confused. Like he's taking the beating, he's letting Raju hit him
Yeah.
because he himself is confused, and he calls him Anna. What are you doing? Anna means brother. Anna, what are you doing? Are you uh, are you pretending to be a police? Something like that. He asks him, and he just keeps on beating. Raju doesn't answer him. He just keeps hitting him, and at one point, I think something happens where Bheem can see that Malli is harmed or something. Oh,
Yeah.
I think the key or something. The key gets lost in the drain or something, and that's what aggravates Bheem, and that's when he also
He
starts
basically
hitting
gets
back.
very close to rescuing her. He
Yeah,
just needs to pick her up and run. That's all he needs to
yeah,
do. But
yeah,
he's not allowed to do that.
yeah. And that's what aggravates
Continue
him to hit back at Raju.
at Raju. And I have a theory that the entire movie is from the perspective of Bheem. The audience is seeing it from Bheem's eyes. Because we know Bheem's intent, we know Bheem's purpose, we know why Bheem is doing what he's doing immediately, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So technically, I think Raju's story gets more screen time here. Just technically, I'm saying, not thematically or anything. And I think it was needed for them to justify why he's doing, and it needed more time for us to, dwell in that fact that he's doing this because blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's why it needed to be. I think that's the only way where they can make these protagonists complete opposites. And also it was necessary for the arc, right? Because we see Raju, I'm going a bit ahead, but we see Raju going from, he actually changes his life motives after meeting Bheem and after seeing him be like this. His main motive after his father dies is to acquire the guns and go against the British Army. But in the middle, he realizes what he's actually giving up uh, by doing this, right? But then that something happens in between where he notices Bheem doing so much for the people. He sees the people rooting for him so much.
Yeah.
Being just the cleanest dude ever. And just doing that, he's still achieving those things. He's still uniting people. And that's when he realizes that, guns are not the only things that are gonna be,
that matter.
yeah, that would matter against the British Army. And that's where he changes. And that's why I think it was needed for him to have more screen time.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, I just think that maybe for me, the reason Bheem is like so overpowering in the movie is because there is so much intent to his actions and anything he does. See that they have been slaughtering these massive animals and carrying the carcass from, one street to the other street. And you're like, oh, maybe what is he doing with all this meat? And all of that gets addressed when he opens up the crates of the animals to attack the Britishers. And
how?
How? I feel like the revelation of Raju's intent comes in later, right? That's the final reveal of the storyline. Like why Raju is doing what he's doing. He was a son of a leader who wanted freedom from the British rule. He loses his mother, his younger brother, and his father in that shootout between the Britishers and him. And I think there's this scene where Raju and Bheem are eating, and the family that is hosting Raju, they kind of stop Bheem, and Bheem is like, "What? What is this? Stop eating with your left hand." So if you're Asian or Indian, you'll probably know that Indians are told to not eat with their left hand. You should only eat with your right hand. It's considered auspicious or whatever. But he kind of eats with both his hands, and the response is like, well, I'll get to eat more food if I eat with both hands. And you can see Raju kind of smiling at that, and when he's asked why he's smiling, he said, no, you just remind me of someone. It is revealed in a flashback that Raju's brother, who dies in the shootout, who's just a child, he said the same thing, or he had the same mindset of eating with both hands so that he could eat more food. And it's just that reveal happens so later on in the movie. And obviously that was intentional, because at this point, the audience is like miffed with Raju. At least I was. I'm like, what is the matter with you? What do you mean beauty above everything? Stop it. Like, stop what you're doing.
Like at that point, we were like, nothing that you're going to explain Nothing that you're gonna say is gonna explain these things.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
like
Just
what
stop
justifies killing your own people, man?
it. So, yeah, like, dude, nothing is making sense anymore. Please take it and go. Like,
Okay, let's talk about how this movie severely fails in the Bechdel test.
stop. I knew you were gonna do this. Okay, first talk about what the Bechdel test.
Bechdel test. There are three criteria to pass the Bechdel test. One is there needs to be more than one female character in the scene. Second criteria is both the female characters are talking to each other. And the third Bechdel test is that they need to be talking about something other than a male character. And this movie fails the Bechdel test by a mile because they don't have any two female characters sharing the scene. Oh wait, they do share one frame. No, they don't share even a single
They
frame.
don't. What? They don't.
Yeah, they don't.
Um, but they do show Alia Bhatt to have a presence of mind, her character, where she saves Bheem and the girl that he's rescued.
Yeah, that's given
So
to her.
they do show her as a person who's a very fitting partner for Raju, who basically sacrifices his plan to accomplish the guns or whatever so that he can rescue Raju and the little girl. And I feel like there is it fails because you're right, it fails a Bechdel test. But please give this guy some credit. He's written some of the most fascinating female protagonists in Bahubali. Uh, I at least
Which
I adore.
also, which by the way, also fails the Bechdel test.
It does. But please give it more
Yeah,
context
yeah,
than because they are not the girls. Are like, what are we gonna do, girls? They're not those
yeah.
girls.
I know
There
there
is a
was some.
reason why it
There
fails
was
the best. So
yeah. I know there was some backlash on Tamanna's character in the first Bahubali, where they talk about her being only beautiful after he meets her or something.
makes her beautiful.
But
Yeah.
I thought it made so much sense because this is a girl who was raised in this kind of environment and she hasn't been exposed to the world that much. And when she meets him, he makes her realize that there's more to life than just the rebellion.
Yeah.
So for
And
me, it worked.
for me, it was not even about making her beautiful. It was like, I don't know, his way of treating her. His way of like, treat yourself, girly.
Yeah.
let me take you out for a self-care day, girly. Like, I think that's what it was. But
Manicure. He gives her a manicure.
gives her manicure, gives her some lipstick, some blush. But if it fails, there is context to it. Even in this movie, it's not about the characters versus the women. It's not. The characters actually cannot accomplish what they are accomplishing without the women. So the British girl is the person who helps Bheem with the blueprints of the area from where he has to now go rescue Raju, because Raju gives up his plan so that he can help Bheem escape with the girl. And he gets imprisoned in a literal, I think, 6 feet long cell underground, where he's not even allowed to sit. He has to spend his time standing in the cell, and Bheem has to go rescue him from there. And the British girl actually provides him the blueprint so that they can escape or they can help each other. And my ending thoughts about these characters, especially, or the storyline. First of all, what a great action film, start to finish. You will not see one action sequence which was unnecessary. Second of all, this movie is solely focused on these two characters. And it's focused on their relationship. It's focused on the transformations that they undergo because of understanding the other person's cause and purpose. So when Bheem recognizes why Raju was so hell-bent on following through with his duty so that he could acquire access to the British guns and the British weaponry and help the cause of, the Indians trying to overthrow the British once and for all with their own guns. He addresses that, and he's like, I had such a single-minded focus on saving that girl that I didn't even see what he was trying to do. And the movie, I think, ends with Raju showing gratitude towards Bheem and saying, what do you want from me? Like, now that you have done all of this for me, what do you want from me? And Bheem goes, Shiksha do Anna, or like, give me knowledge, brother. And I feel like there is, it made me smile so hard, that line where, because sometimes it ends with a very cringe line. You say, I want your brotherhood, I want your loyalty, I want your friendship. Like, no, he's like, teach me. Like, I want to learn. I want to understand why you're doing what you're doing even more. It is, I was heavily impressed by the way that story was wound up.
Agree. Big agreement. I agree with you when you say that it is one hell of an action movie. It's one of my favorites probably my favorite of the last few years, right? And I don't care if any action sequence actually, is necessary or unnecessary. I would watch Rajamouli do anything. I know that even if he films someone sleeping, he would make it interesting. Yeah. He's that kind of guy. I would never doubt him from now on. I think he's etched himself in. He's etched his talent, his masterful storytelling in my mind, at least. And yeah, I would blindly go into his movies from now on.
You can trust you'll have a good time. You can trust you'll have a good time in a Rajamouli film. That's all. You don't have to like the story. You may not approve of the characters, but you will have a good bloody time. You want to have a dirty good time in a theater, watching a very entertaining film. You can always bet on Rajamouli. And a shout out to a scene that we did not talk about. The protagonists, the way they meet each other, swinging across a bridge. There isn't one moment in that movie which is not entertaining.
Yeah. Again, any other director, this movie would this sequence would look so campy, right? Like South Indian movies are infamous for showing these scenes, for having these scenes that are out of the box and being sort of like quote unquote brainless.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. When Rajamouli does it you think that you'll also be able to do those things.
Absolutely. All right. Absolutely. We spoke about some great protagonists today. If you guys have not caught our previous episode, we talk about some really interesting protagonists. Please check out our YouTube channel, Cremechiss, and you will basically see we've uploaded a bunch of videos. I think we have 5 videos now, and you will really enjoy that as well. If you've not watched it, give it a like, give it a share, and please make sure you like this video and you share this video, you subscribe to us, because we are releasing episodes every Saturday. If you guys give us a little more support through your comments or through your likes, it will help us understand what else you're looking for from this podcast. We are going to do a mix of lists and movies which are very current, and movies that are getting released right now which are impacting cinema in a very beautiful way. Please give it a chance. Give our channel a chance. You will not be disappointed. It's just 2 friends blabbering about stuff that they love when they're watching the movies. We are not critics in any way whatsoever. We are a fanboy and a fangirl, and we enjoy cinema for what it is. when this man says, I made a mistake by not watching in theater, he is very, very passionately speaking about that, because he truly was disappointed that he didn't watch it in the theater. And that's basically the kind of podcast we're trying to be. We want to talk about movies and
Only
series and stories in a way that makes sense to us and hopefully to you. Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's like the reason why I regret it is because they don't let me burst crackers at home in my building.
You know what? Go ahead. Give it a try. Next week, you will not hear Sang's voice, but that's okay. That's okay. I will interpret his voice for you guys.
Or maybe it will only damage my left pharynx? Larynx, sorry.
Say phalange, no? My left phalange.
All right. Are we ending?
Yeah, let's end this. We had a great time today, guys. Do reach out to us if you have any suggestions for us for any movies you watched that you thought were pretty awesome. We would love to review that and, maybe even watch it if we haven't watched it. And up until then, see you again next week.
Yes. Ciao, Bella.
Ciao, Bella.